Good morning. Welcome to our webinar this morning on social selling. We've got 30 minutes to get through a lot of really impactful content. All of you are on mute right now. We don't really have time for questions on the webinar today, but that is our Twitter handle at Sandler Hamish. Please, if you have questions, tweet them at us and we will respond to you as quickly as possible. There's several Sandler clients on the webinar today, but for those of you who aren't Sandler clients, aren't really familiar with Sandler, very quick overview of who we are and how we support our clients. At the end of today's session, I'll give you 3 ways that you can continue the conversation if you so desire. And if not, I believe that you'll take away at least a couple of things that you can institute right away into your social selling. Sandler is really all about knowing to owning. Most humans, adults, when they discover they have an awareness that they have a skill gap or a knowledge gap, they go seek out that knowledge. And once they believe they've acquired that knowledge, that's where they tend to stop. But we believe that the hardest 4 inches to move in your life is from here to here. So if you don't apply that knowledge and turn it into a skill and eventually a habit, which is the owning component of it, all the knowledge that you have in your head is maybe not worth as much as you thought it was. So Sandler support starts with real world application. We're not about high level pie in the sky ideas. We've certainly got strategies and that we share with our clients, but we really want to support our clients with real world application. As David Sandler said, I'm giving you sheet music and helping you make it sing in your world. We'll reinforce that with our learning management system, Sandler Online. We launched last year a free version called the Sandler e-learning library. You can access that off of our website, hamish.sandler.com/sell, the Sandler e-learning library, and that's a free platform. And then we reinforce. We're in the business of ongoing incremental growth over time, which is the adult learning model, through consulting, training, and coaching, to really accomplish 2 objectives. From an organizational perspective, creating consistent, repeatable, scalable, and for some of our clients, ultimately sellable at a higher multiple, cash engines for their business. And then from an individual perspective, creating more effective human-to-human interactions personally and professionally. Our themes for today are 3. First of all, stand out based on how you sell, not what you sell. We are all commodities in the eyes of our prospects. So if you attempt to stand out based on what you sell, eventually the only differentiator is your price. If you stand out based on how you sell, you end up beginning the journey from vendor to trusted advisor. Second theme is social selling actually isn't selling. It's a combination of marketing and prospecting. So marketing is everything that gets you to hello. Most people jump right from marketing to selling, which is kind of like saying, hi, nice to meet you at this coffee shop for the very first time. How about we get married? There's that intermediate spot called prospecting, which is everything from hi, nice to meet you to how about we have a bit of a longer conversation to discover if we're a good fit to work together. So social selling is a combination of marketing and prospecting. And lastly, your knowledge and network are infinite resources. And we'll talk today about how you can leverage your knowledge and your network into increasing the size of your funnel and building your reputation. That, of course, all starts with creating human-to-human connections. That's the social in social media. There's really 2 components of creating human-to-human connections. First of all is reaching out around trigger events. So trigger events can be things like your contact got promoted, maybe they have a new role at a new company. There's some company developments. They've opened up an office in Australia, as an example, which is something one of our clients did last year. They've got product launches or award nominations, or maybe one of your prospects has been selected to speak at a major conference or has published a book. And so when you reach out to them, you can reach out around that trigger event with something like, I'm very happy for you. Congratulations, Peter, on the promotion. I'm very happy for you. That's an emotional connection. and then ask a question. What are you hoping to achieve in your new role? Or how do you see this product supporting you in your business? As my associate has said recently in our sessions, when our brain is asked a question, everything except for the functions that are required to keep us breathing, keep our heart beating, blood pumping around our body, shuts down because the brain says, we have been asked a question and we need to answer that question. Now, because we are still selling to human beings, if you ask someone a question, it doesn't mean that you're going to get a response 100% of the time, but it does increase the likelihood that you are going to get a response back and create that human-to-human connection and that conversation. The other way of creating human-to-human connections is through sharing content. And best practice is the 5-3-1 rule. 5-3-1. First of all, you have 5 curated shares of content that is relevant to your prospects. So as an example, if I had a real intense passion for cake decorating, but I'm not selling to bakery owners or pastry chefs, I'm not posting my cake decorating content on my business social media. I'll save that for a private group or my personal social media. The 3 is original posts created by or for you. I publish an article pretty much every Sunday on my LinkedIn profile. I used to be a journalist. I like words. We also do a lot of video content, both on LinkedIn and Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. But if you don't have either the interest or the perception that you have the time to create content, that's absolutely okay. We actually work with a lot of creative individuals who our clients have hired to create content for them. And if you are looking for a content producer, one of the key things that you want to seek out is, do they really take the time to get to know you, but also your prospects? And what are your prospects looking for in terms of resources to either resolve a problem or support them in realizing an opportunity? And lastly, one marketing call to action to collect leads. And like anything online, if it's quote unquote free, at least you're sharing your name and an email address. This could be a white paper, could be a case study, could be a webinar that you want people to sign up to, whatever that might be. And this ratio of 5-3-1 is not a literal format. So you don't have to share 5 curated shares, then 3 original content, and then 1 marketing call to action. If you've got something coming up that you want people to sign up for, post it. And if over time you average out to 5-3-1, that's okay. But when you start violating this ratio, that's when you start to lose a bit of credibility because you're coming off as a pushy salesperson. Clients on the webinar today have heard this one a lot, is stop asking for referrals. Stop asking for referrals. The word referral creates resistance with the person you're asking. And it doesn't matter what we say to another person, it matters what they hear. And even if you're talking to a client who's been working with you for a really long time, maybe you are starting to become personal friends, and you say, would you give me a referral? You now become a salesperson, and no one trusts salespeople. So what your long-term client friend hears is, uh-oh, I'm going to have to refer a salesperson to someone in my network. And the word referral creates an endorsement. A friend of mine came and met with me for lunch a few years ago. And when they came in, they were in a right rage. And I didn't believe that I had caused that because they had shown up for lunch. So I said, what's going on in your world? And they said, I just signed an agreement with a software salesperson and they asked me for a referral. And I said, well, I'm kind of confused. That's one of the things that we train our clients to do every time that they close an agreement. And my friend kind of looked at me like, this is probably going to be a really, really short lunch, and both you and I are going to be eating alone, or at least you are. And I said, oh, let's back up. Let's play this out. You be you, I'll be them. So sign the agreement. Thanks very much for your business. Looking forward to working with you. Kind of curious, who is a fellow, and I'll leave their title out for privacy's sake, who you would be comfortable introducing to me? And instantly all of their tension melted away, and they said, oh, I can do that. That's not endorsing you. It's just saying you're a human being, go have a conversation. So that word introduction reduces the friction and increases the likelihood that you'll actually get a name. We make introductions all the time. Soccer is starting to be started with minor soccer. So a lot of youth sports are happening, and we have end of school year celebrations for those of you who have children still in school. There's introductions made all the time. So when you ask for introductions, you actually increase the potential that you'll get at least a name. And when you do ask for introductions, ask for a couple or a few. So who are a couple or who are a few? If you say who are three, it's a little aggressive, but if you say a couple or a few, oftentimes you'll get more than one. Now, the other part of asking for an introduction is you have to be specific. This was our breakthrough moment for our sessions this week, because oftentimes, at least in my experience, when I talk to people about who they want to talk to, they start off with something like, well, anybody who. And I actually once had a salesperson say to me, anybody who pays their bills on time. Now, there was a lot more going on in their book of business that we didn't have time to explore, but nobody knows anybody's. But they do know directors of operations. They do know chief financial officers. They do know human resource professionals based in Red Deer. And the more specific you can be, the more likely you are to get a name. But also, even if the person who you know doesn't say no HR professionals based in Red Deer, they might say, well, I don't know anybody based in Red Deer, but I do know a few HR professionals based in Medicine Hat. Would that work for you? And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But at the very least, you prompt their thinking. Because if we start off with anybody, what we typically get to is, let me think about it and I'll not get back to you. And as Ralph Waldo Emerson said in his Law of Compensation, if you want more, give more. So be seeking opportunities to give introductions to your clients. Trusted advisors give introductions to their clients. One time in a session, a salesperson that I was working with said, well, I can't give introductions to my clients. And I said, well, help me understand why. And they said, well, I don't know anyone who would be a prospect for my client. And I said, well, hey, that's fair. Who are you talking to typically? And they said, well, the CEO. And I said, fair enough. I bet the CEO has other needs and wants for their business. There's other problems they've got. There's other opportunities they're trying to realize. Maybe their copier's breaking down all the time, or they're looking for more commercial space because their lease is coming up or they're growing. And they said, yeah, I think they have those things. They said, great, ask them about that. Because the more you can give an introduction to a client that doesn't necessarily directly put money in your pocket, your credibility goes up and you increase the stickiness with your clients over the long term. Now, occasionally, you don't have a direct line to your ideal prospect. They're not second level connections on LinkedIn, or maybe the connections that you do share with your prospect, you're just not comfortable reaching out to. So you have to go in cold. And that's absolutely okay. As long as you are genuine about the reason for reaching out. Now, genuine does not necessarily mean, hi, Hamish, please buy my stuff. That's a quick way to get tossed into the bin. But be genuine. I'm looking to reach out to connect with HR professionals in Red Deer who are wondering how to fill in the blank, address the new cannabis legislation as an example. And the way that you can do that is through a third-party story. So I'm looking to reach out to HR professionals in Red Deer who are seeking ways to address the new cannabis legislation. Clients who we've supported with this have found that and then insert the result of the story. And it's probably a happy ending. Also, when you're reaching out cold, and this could be with a curated share, you saw something on this person's LinkedIn profile or their company page, and you have a curated piece of content that you thought that they would appreciate. And there's magic in that word appreciate, because oftentimes the words that get used are things like, I thought this would be relevant to you. Well, you don't get to determine if it's relevant to them, they do. The other ones are, I thought you'd like this, or I thought you'd find this funny. And well, no, actually, I find it highly offensive. Why are you sending this to me? But I have yet, and my clients have yet to have a negative response to, I thought you would appreciate this piece of content, especially if it's backed up by something like, because I saw on your page or your company page that fill in the blank. Now you're increasing your credibility. You're looking to support that individual without saying, oh, by the way, you need to buy my stuff. And remember, when you are making cold connections, you are prospecting, not selling. Now, these cold connections, by the way, can be a direct message or it could be a connection request. Either one is okay. The format is the same, but you are prospecting, not selling. And as the Sandler rule goes, the purpose of prospecting is to get an appointment, which in this case is a conversation. Because right now we're communicating via text, which is one of the single worst ways to communicate, especially in terms of emotion and nuance. What you're hoping to do is get them from cold connection via text to some type of a phone call where you can start to build a little bit of rapport and then discover if you want to have a face-to-face meeting, whether that face-to-face is via video conference or in person. Pretty much all training that is out there is very much focused on technique. And a little bit will tie into attitudes or mindsets, but very little actually touches on behavior or proactive activities, because you should know how to do those, or you should know what to do. And oftentimes that becomes like a Frank Sinatra song, which is I did it my way. And David Sandler, when he created the Sandler system, created the success triangles, which is behavior or proactive activities, attitude or mindset, and then technique. And so we're going to dive into the BATs of social selling to wrap up today, starting, of course, with attitude and mindset, because everything starts from there. One of the things that we share in when we do prospecting calls is, mom told us never to talk to who? Of course, the answer is strangers. And some of you may have actually said it when I said, mom told us never to talk to who, because it's a script. Well, if we teach you 47 awesome ways to make prospecting calls, who wins, us or mom? And of course, the answer is mom always wins. So we need to look at the mindset first, and social selling can have a lot of negative mindsets around it. So we're going to throw some positive ones out today. First one is, I am worthy. I am worthy. The core concept in Sandler is the idea of equal business stature. You're two human beings having a conversation. Doesn't matter if you're the most junior person in your organization and you're reaching out to the most senior person at a prospect company, you are worthy because you are a human being. So when you're looking at your list of prospects on whatever social platform you're searching on, you are worthy to have a conversation with them. So that little voice in your head that says, why would they listen to me? Well, it's because you have worth. And it's also because you provide real value to your network. One of the things that we hear when we join the Sandler network is, if you're struggling to prospect, whether that's social selling, networking, prospecting calls, picture that prospect who's sitting at their desk, staring out the window, head in their hands, metaphorically pulling out their hair, and they're saying, I wish I had a solution to fill in the blank, or I wish I could realize this opportunity because it will grow my company exponentially. they deserve to know about you and your company because you provide real value. So make that cold reach out, ask for that introduction. If we were talking about prospecting calls, make that prospecting call because your prospects deserve to know about you. They don't deserve to buy from you because you're not a good fit for everybody, but they at the very least deserve to know about you. So don't hold back from reaching out in a nice, gentle, respectful way. From a behavior or an activity standpoint, best practice, do this 30 minutes, 2 times a week, outside of pay time. Now, the Sandler concept of pay time is the hours that you can be interacting with your clients and prospects. That's when you are interacting with your clients and prospects. And in Calgary, that's 8 to 4, 8:30 to 4:30. Adjust the time zone as necessary based on where your prospects are. Before I joined Sandler, I had prospects that were out east, so my pay time hours extended a little bit, because social selling is often a lot of research or what we call getting ready to get ready. So we have a client who's a VP of a bank out in the Eastern United States, works with a client of ours, and they do their social selling activities 7:30 to 8 a.m. Tuesday and Thursday, and they could directly tie over 7 figures of net new business to their social selling activities in 6 months. It was a January to June timeframe, using 30 minutes 2 times a week. But 9:30 on a Tuesday morning or 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon is not the time to be doing social selling activities. That's the time to be in front of prospects or meeting with clients to support them and grow your business. Give and ask for introductions. We ask all of our clients to have what we call a cookbook, which is a prospecting plan or a behavior plan in a sales role. And you can cookbook any role. I have a client who cookbooked their IT technicians, and put specific goals in for a monthly basis of how many introductions you're going to give and how many you're going to ask for. My number is 12. So every month I am seeking to give 12 introductions and ask for 12 introductions. I can't control how many introductions I'm going to get. Sandler rule is never manage anything you can't control. So I can control how many times I ask. I can control how many times I give. But I do want to track how many introductions I get, because maybe there's peaks and valleys in my introductions. And I want to know that from a data perspective so I can better format my prospecting activities. Create content that's relevant to your prospect. This is one of those no duh moments, Hamish. Yeah, I get that. And make it relevant to our prospects. But relevant to the prospects does not mean we've been in business for 27 years or we've got a cool new thing. What it means is, are you wondering about, or are you seeking a solution for, or are you curious how to? And answer those questions in your content. And if you're wondering, well, what are those things? Go talk to your current clients and say to them, out of curiosity, what prompted you to buy from us? What was the problem that you believed we could solve, or the opportunity you believed we could support you in realizing? And then create content around that, because the problems that you solved for your current clients are problems that your prospects are likely facing today. Now, from a technique perspective, get really good at telling third-party stories. Humans are story-oriented. That's how we used to say knowledge and transfer knowledge before we had the written word. So the better you can be at highly impactful third-party stories, the better your social selling will be. Push them away to pull them closer. It's a Sandler technique called the negative reverse. Now, negative doesn't mean being negative. It means going negative or doing the opposite of what they expect. So if someone starts coming towards you and says, well, yeah, tell me all about your business. And you might say something like, you know what, I'd love to. We're not necessarily a good fit for everybody. Push them away. Would you be open to a 15-minute or less phone call to discover if we want to continue the conversation? Pull them closer. Now it's on them to either come back in a negative way and say, no, just send me a quote. Okay, well, now you have a choice as to whether or not you want to do business with someone like that. Or they might say, absolutely. And now you're having a human-to-human conversation. And with those human-to-human conversations, be comfortable reaching out with cold messages. If you want to workshop them a couple of times internally and make sure that you're not being salesy and you're reaching out in a genuine, curious way with an impactful third-party story, do that. But eventually you're going to have to get off the bench and into the game. And so start sending out cold messages. You may A/B test them and see which version of your cold message gets the higher number of responses and the higher number of conversions to conversations. Coaching for the leaders on the webinar today has to revolve around real data. Otherwise, you're saying, well, my tummy thinks that this isn't working. And that's not good enough in a professional sales organization. Appreciate you spending your time with us today on this webinar. Where we go from here is real simple. Now, if you've got enough from today's webinar to go back and accelerate your social selling, that's awesome. Appreciate you being on the webinar today. You are going to get a follow-up email from Nisha, which is going to have these links, so you do not need to be frantically writing down the link. You're also going to get a recording of this webinar. We are in the ongoing reinforcement business, so if you'd like to listen to the webinar again, you certainly can. But the three options that I mentioned at the start of our webinar today are our self-directed course on social selling. So we have a 4-part self-directed course on social selling. You can click and invest in it right through that link. Do enjoy that and accelerate your social selling further. If you'd like to get a physical copy of Digital Prospecting, all of you got a chapter of it for registering today. You can email Nisha directly or fill in the contact us form through that URL. Know how many copies you want, and we can make arrangements for you to either pick them up here at our training center, or we can drop ship them directly to you. And lastly, if you'd like to explore whether or not Sandler is a good fit to support you and the growth of your organization, let's have a quick discovery call. You can book it right through that URL, and it's a 15-minute call. Purpose is to get to know each other a bit, help me understand a little bit more about your business, and then we will decide whether or not we want to have a visit in person. We are kicking off our Q3 intake at the end of June, so if you do want to have that discovery call with me, I'd recommend that you book it sooner rather than later. Until we connect, however we might connect, have a fantastic rest of your Friday and a great weekend. Go sell something.